Yeah, my clock says we are starting now, so welcome to the spotlight session on mixed methods with MAXQDA. My name is Stefan and I will introduce the features that can be used for mixed methods within MAXQDA in the next half hour. I'm happy you are joining this session, and please know that I created a handout which you can download just by going into the chat to this session and clicking on the link. And this Spotlight session handout will be available on the MAXDAYS website after the MAXDAYS conference, so you will have options to access these information that I've integrated there. Please note that there is also a question and answer tab where you can enter your questions. Maybe I can already address some while I'm speaking to you in the next half hour. But if there are additional questions, I will cover them in the question and answer session just after I've introduced most of these here. Before talking about mixed methods, let me introduce some definitions here and some guiding principles that I'm building on in my session here. So I think in mixed methods is defined by having qualitative and quantitative data within a project, and not only having them, collecting and analyzing them, but bringing them together in a conscious way. So when doing so, MAXQDA supports you for analyzing the qualitative data and the quantitative data on the other side. So see here on the qualitative data part, MAXQDA helps you to import different kinds of data, texts, tables, PDFs, web pages, videos, etc. And you can explore these by searching for words, word combinations, and so on. Then you have the option to analyze these data in different ways. You can code it, you can write memos, you can write summaries, and for reporting and for analyzing, you have several options for using visual tools. On the quantitative data side, you can create frequency tables, you can create different charts like bar charts, you can create box plots and histograms. If you have licensed MAXQDA Analytics Pro, offering you the MAXQDA Stats menu tab, you can create descriptive statistics, you can calculate crosstabs and correlations, and even do inference statistics and build a scale, both on depend on MAXQDA Stats installed. So there are different ways MAXQDA supports both the qualitative data analysis and the quantitative data analysis. So the question is, when and how does it come together? And so let's have a look at this schematic diagram here, which origins by to Udo Kuckertz, and we have worked on this several times and published this. And in the handout, you will also find additional information on resources with using mixed methods data analysis within MAXQDA. So here we have the qualitative strand, and here we have the quantitative strand, both starting with the data collection, continued by and followed by the analysis and subsequent creating results. So the idea is that we first say that there is a results-based integration, which can take place in any mixed methods project, because in any mixed methods project, no matter what design, no matter how you conduct it, no matter how you do it, you will have results on the qualitative strand and you will have results on the quantitative strands, and you can compare them, you can mix them, you can look for divergences, you can look for differences between the data. Then you can use MAXQDA already for this, so you can create side-by-side displays of results by coding the preliminary project reports of the qualitative and quantitative parts, for example. Then we have the sequence-based integration, which takes place when we have one strand following the other. So here, for example, we start with interviews and build a survey on the results, doing our data collection there. Or the other way around, we start with the survey and this is followed by a focus groups, for example. So the integration now takes place after the results of one strand have been, at least preliminary formulated here to be able to conduct the next step. And then we have data-based integration, and this is where MAXQDA plays its whole strength, because in data-based integration, we put together the qualitative and the quantitative data into a big, here, let's say in a big sample, and we analyze them together. We analyze the qualitative data while looking on the quantitative data, using it for data collection, not for data collection, for data selection and for data grouping, for example. So, and here the joints play an important role for all these integrations that I've mentioned here. Here, 2 examples for data-based integration. Joint means that we have qualitative and quantitative data within one display, allowing us to analyze and present our data and results. So let's take a look at the upper one. Here we have the cross tab. We have the well-being score, and the well-being score creating here 2 columns. So the quantitative data is displayed in the columns, while the qualitative data here in form of codes is displayed in the rows. In this typology table, it's the other way around. We use the qualitative data here to build types, to group our data, our cases into, let's say into subsamples, and we compare how these subsamples differ in ages. For example, we create here the mean, or we look for the numbers and the percentages. So if we're doing this with MAXQDA, we need to rely on the mixed methods tab. So MAXQDA has always been dedicated to mixed methods software, allowing a lot of qualitative data analysis, but also for including quantitative data. And we need the mixed methods tab here in the menu to do most of this stuff. Furthermore, we have the variables tab and the stats tab. And these are also offering several mixed methods functions. And there are a lot of more places within MAXQDA. So now it's time to go to MAXQDA and look at this example project. Here we have the results of a survey. It's containing really a lot of data here. It contains 156 documents. So we have 156 responses to open and closed-ended questions on a survey on a crisis. And here, for example, we have the answers of person 2 to question 2, how affected by crisis? Not really much, well, our cheaper car parking tickets have gone now. So here, these qualitative data, the open answers or the questions, the answers to open-ended questions have been thematically coded. You can see them here: jobs lost, family, pensions. For example, here the travel code or the income down code has been applied to this piece of data. Please note that most of the features that I'm displaying and introducing here can also be used with smaller projects. Even when you have 20 documents in it, you can perform lots of the analysis that I'm doing, but I'm taking this survey here because the demonstration is much easier and makes for some features more sense. So if I switch to the variables tab, you might probably know already the data editor for document variables. So here we have, for example, the quantitative data, the answers to the standardized question. The person 2 is retired, is widowed, and belongs to the age group of the 70 to 79 years old. And on the job security scale, from 0 to 4, the person said, 4, I'm feeling really secure and comfortable. So MAXQDA always knows that these quantitative data here belong to these qualitative data by connecting them by the document name. So here we have the document group survey, the document name R002 for respondent 2. And MAXQDA now has the information. So we can display this information here just by selecting some variables to be displayed in the document system, allowing us doing our first mixed methods approach, because while analyzing the qualitative data, no matter if it is interviews or here answers to open-ended questions, I hover with the mouse over a person and I see not only the qualitative data in the right part of the window in the document browser, but also the quantitative data at the bottom of this info box here. For example, here we see again that this person is retired, widowed, and belongs to the age group of the 70 to 79-year-olds. Person 3 is self-employed, married, and much younger. The person belongs to the 30-plus group here. So we have lots of information here, and the variables, the document variables, can be seen as a bridge between the qualitative and the quantitative data. What I can do now is that I can transform a code into a variable. And maybe you've seen this already in other Spotlight sessions. You can right-click on a code and say, I want to transform this into a document variable. Don't get scared because you won't lose the code information here. Just you get an additional information here, because here in our data matrix, in the data editor, we'll get another column here to the right, and this column indicates and is populated by the number of times this code, the jobs lost code, has been applied to this document. For example, here in the first document displayed here in the browser, document browser of respondent 2, jobs loss hasn't been applied, but it has been applied for document 4. So if I double click, I can confirm, yes, the jobs lost code has been applied here. And by the way, this is interactive. So anytime I add here this dummy code, you will see that the number here is increases from 1 to 2. And there's already a question in the chat. It's asking, is there an online manual? Then you can see that there are also here these information icons everywhere in MAXQDA on several dialogues, and if you click on it, you will jump to the MAXQDA help, which is the direct link is also sent to the chat. So, but if you want to go to different special information on any dialogue, you should use this information icon here. So what we have now is that we can work with this jobs lost variable. For example, we can use it for data selection. So I go to the Mixed Methods tab, doing our first thing here, taking the Activate Documents by Variables feature, and we will get this window here where we have all the variables in our project listed on the left. The red ones are the system variables by MAXQDA, which belong to any project, and these are project specific. So these are the ones that I've created here, and this one is also specific to this project, but the source is different. It's a code. This is the code that I've transformed. And what I will do is that I will clear the conditions here in the middle of the dialog. I will include the jobs lost variable here and say I want to have activate and select all the documents where jobs lost is equal or larger than 1. This makes it easier to understand. So at least one time it has been applied. But this I can do with any project. There's not much mixed methods in it because here we're working with the qualitative data still on the qualitative data, for example. But we could include additional information. For example, we could take one of the quantitative variables, the standardized information, combine it with and say, and we want to filter only the persons that live in a rural area. So no, we only get 26 persons which fulfill both criteria. Jobs lost code has been applied at least once, and they live in a rural area. So this is a subgroup of these 30 persons. And I can click on Activate, and you will see that you get a pattern here. Only the ones that for those who for which the criteria are, can be applied, they will be included here. in the activation, and we see here at the bottom that the status bar tells us that there are 26 activated documents. But we can also, this is some kind of nice, but as soon as I click on reset activations, I will lose my selection of data. So there's also the possibility to create a set. And if I select new set here on this dialog, you see that MAXQDA creates a new set at the bottom of the document system. And this contains now the 26 documents and activates them already. So later on, I can deactivate and activate this group or display only this group and so on in my data analysis. For example, I can select them now for looking what they have said about jobs lost. We can open the documents and say, what did these people say on the code jobs lost? Why has it been coded there? Or we can create a quantitative analysis, and we can go to the variables tab again, and we can do a document variable statistics. So here, for example, we can look on these variables, except for region. This makes no sense. It's only the rural purple there. We need to check this box, which is usually automatically checked for only the activated documents. So the 26 documents are now evaluated, and we see that there are 9 people self-employed here, 9 employed, 4 part-time, retired. And we can also use this in a diagram here. So I can move forward here. For example, we have the marital status, which is married, single, widowed, and partner. We can move on to the age group, and we see, oh no, it's not very well sorted here. The reason is because it is sorted by the number of frequencies, how often how many people here are in these age groups from our 26 persons. So we switch back to the table sorted by the categories and not by the frequency, and we get a much nicer view here, indicating that the 40 to 49 age group is maybe very high represented here in this for these 26 people. Of course, we need to compare it with the whole sample we have here, but this is a first indicator. So on the Mixed Methods tab, we have already worked with activate documents by variables. And there is also another one, which is called interactive quote metrics. And in the interactive quote metrics, what we can do is that we can use quantitative data to group our data and look for the qualitative answers. So I can start this here. I get very similar dialog to the one like activate documents by variables, but the result is very different. But before I start, I'll need to reopen the code system window. I reset the activations. And what I will do is that I will select some of the thematic codes here, which have been created for the qualitative data. I take these jobs lost, family, pensions, etc. codes. And now I can say only for activated codes, I want to create this interactive quote matrix. So the quote means that these, I will come to this later. I will create an interactive quote matrix for all the age groups. So I create age group is equals 20 to 29, age group equals 30 to 39, and so on, columns here. And if I click on OK, you will see what this means. This means that MAXQDA created 1, 2, 3, 4, in fact 5 and 6 here columns with grouping the data. And now we see here in the first column only the answers to jobs lost, or the coded segments that have been coded with job lost for the 20 to 29 group. They are pulled from 17 documents, and there are 6 coded segments at all in this column. In the second column, there are twice documents and twice coded segments, which isn't necessary. Here we have 37 documents in this age group and 15 coded segments. So we have also some quantitative information here, which I will come back later. And here we have the qualitative information. Here it's just short answers from surveys, but it could be long texts from your interviews maybe, or observational data. If I click here on any of these source informations, for example, this one, I will jump to here, respondent 4, which will be displayed in the document browser, so I can see what other answers the person gave to question 2 or to the other open-ended questions in my data. So the interactive quote matrix opens up the possibility to inspect quotes from the data material sorted by groups. And these groups are formed by quantitative data. I can export it, I can note my results, my insights here in these memos, for example. So I keep this window open, and I want you to look at the first columns here, the column headers. You see here the 17 documents and the 6 coded segments, here the 34 documents and the 12 coded segments. If I open up the mixed methods crosstab, which is the next feature here on our interactive quote matrix, you will see that we can also have these columns here get again the same dialog, but the result will again different one. Oh, forget to tick this one. I include again all the age groups here. I say only for the activated codes, and the result table will be a complete different one to this one, but shares some data. Because here in the first row of our result table, we see the 6 coded segments, the 12 coded segments, the 15, the 3, and the 4, which are listed here, the 6, the 12, the 15, the 3, and the 4. So the crosstab displays the same information as the interactive quote matrix, but only displays the quantitative information. And I can now compare how many persons or how many coded segments, it's not persons at the moment. Oh no, it's equal because it's coded only once per person. But what we see here is the number of coded segments in this age group. For example, here we have 6 coded segments for jobs lost in the age group from the 20 to 29th people group. And there are 17 documents in this age group. So this is not very comparable here because the columns are populated with different numbers of documents. So there are options to click, for example, here on column percentages, and now we see that 35.3 of the persons from age group 20 to 29 have been coded with jobs lost, and this equals the age group here of the 30 to 39, because now MAXQDA takes into account how many persons there are in this group. And now I can really compare the columns here or line by line. And I can even switch on a highlighter, which now highlights per column the highest value. The highest value is displayed in dark green and the lowest value is displayed in white. So what we can see here is that for nearly all of the age groups, jobs lost is very high and is an important topic. But for the age group of 30 to 39, there is also the insecure. And for the 40 to 49, the jobs lost code is much higher than for the other, or much more people are affected by this part of crisis than the other. And in the older age group, it goes down. So here income down, or here the pensions from the 60 to 69 persons higher represented here in this group than the jobs lost codes. Here in the age group of the 70 to 79, there is only one person, and I left it here in the project to show you that sometimes it makes no sense to quantify qualitative data here. And this would be an art analysis to continue here and go on with one person in this age group. But we can see that this person has been coded with income down and travel, which is the one you already know. It's person respondent number 2. So we've dealt with lots of mixed methods functions already. Quantitizing you've already known. It's in fact the same as clicking on here the code and saying transform into document variable. No, we're going on. Clicking on transform into document variable, but this one here does it for all activated codes at once. I won't do it now because it will take some time and you've already seen this, but I want to show you the other things that are here located on this tab. So for example, we have the statistics by qualitative groups here. And the statistics by qualitative groups create a typology table that I've already showed you on my PowerPoint slides. And what we need to work with the statistics by qualitative groups is that I'll select a different code, because here the persons have also been asked, are your holidays affected by are your holiday decisions affected by the crisis? And I can use this code, this qualitative data, as a grouping factor for my documents. Here I choose the holiday comments and I say there is one group saying I cannot afford this. And there is also a group which says, oh, we live for the present, let's go on holiday. So here we have 10 persons, here we have 4. This is very small groups. It's hard to really calculate statistics here, but I'll do anyway because it makes it clear how this function works. And what I will include is I will include all the age groups, and I will also include the job security scale so that you get an impression of how this really works. Here we have, for these categorical data saying yes or no, you belong to an age group or not, we see the number of persons from this group here, from these 10 persons, and the percentages. And here for this job security scale, for which we can calculate a mean and a standard deviation, we will get these results. And it will look like this. So here we have a column with the cannot afford persons. Here I have a column with the live for the present persons. These are built by qualitative data. Here we have quantitative variables. And here we have statistics in this table. That's why it is called statistics by qualitative groups. But as you can see by the title, it produces the same result as the typology table, but the operation process is a little bit different. And it helps to switch on the green and red highlights, meaning to highlight the highest and the lowest value per row. For example, here we can see at a glance that many people here are from the cannot afford group are very young, while here for live for the present, most of the persons are older than the persons here in this group. And the number of persons who is older is larger, I have to say, to do it, to frame it correctly. And we also see a difference here regarding the job security scale. The live for the present feel a little bit more secure than the persons who say, I cannot afford it. But please note that the standard deviation here is very high. So I assume that there is at least one person who does not feel safe at all. So this is the statistics by qualitative groups and the typology table. And there are still some more. Please note that the qualitative themes by quantitative groups for coded segments and for summaries produces the same result as the interactive quote matrix, but has a different approach of selecting the data. And of course, here we don't get the quotes, but we get the summaries. So it's some kind of an interactive summary matrix, which is displayed. If you are not familiar with the summaries yet, they are a great option to work on your qualitative data. You could have a try on, there is in the hop-in, in the replay area, you could watch some informational spotlights on summaries if you are interested in that. So let's give me an option to introduce the similarity analysis for documents, which I will do just quickly. So I will get back to here the codes. I'll take the jobs loss, the first 6 codes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the loans. From the how affected by crisis, these are the ones that have been applied a lot. I will use them and I will create here a similarity matrix for the documents. And the result looks like this. So here we see how similar are 2 documents regarding the application of codes to their documents, to the persons here. And here, for example, respondent 2 and respondent 20 are identical in terms of these codes. So I assume that for both the jobs lost code has been applied. And this matrix here can be used in MAXQDA in a visual tool. And this visual tool is called a document map. And you could frame this feature of MAXQDA also as a mixed methods function, because here we can not only select the documents and select the codes that I have selected for the similarity analysis, but MAXQDA will also use a multidimensional scaling, which is the mathematical procedure to project the similarity or to use the similarity matrix to project these document names onto a surface. And what we see here is that the higher or the larger one circle is here, the more coded segments, the more codes have been applied to it from R6. So if I go here for R015, we see that 3 codes have been applied to R15. It is jobs lost, loans, and pension, a very struggled person here. And we see here 19 documents where there are only pensions. And here we see 24 documents where only jobs lost has been coded and no other code. So this one is here just between these 2 extreme poles. And here is another pole at the bottom. And here we have only the persons where income down has been applied here. So this document map helps us to identify groups of persons, to identify coding patterns, etc. And it uses some kind of mixed methods approach here while dealing with the coded segments. So there is more in MAXQDA. There is also the stats table here. We can do lots of descriptive statistics here. And there's another session for this. And I think it will also be recorded and you can watch it later if you're have no time to see it. So this was my introduction to most of the mixed methods functions, and please let me end here with some conclusions. So MAXQDA supports qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods analysis. And especially the database integration benefits from the use of software here. So in case you have you can match the qualitative and quantitative data per case. This would be perfect to use lots of the data that the features that I've shown you. And joint displays with qualitative data and our results can be very helpful for the analysis and for your result presentation. Please note that there are much more offers and ways to use mixed methods function, also more in a qualitative oriented way or more in a quantitative way. Here we have additional information in this book. There is also a guide analyzing open-ended survey questions. And please download the handout, which is linked in the chat. And you can find direct links to all these resources, including an article or here this book section using MAXQDA for integration in mixed methods research. So I'm happy to answer your questions now, and I see that there are already some question and answer questions in the there in the chat, and I will open here a Word file and copying. Oh no, not again. Oh, I had some struggles today with my computer here. I'm sorry. So here we have the the first question and there are also some answers to it. Give me a second, it takes some time. I can already read it. What's the advantage of converting the code variable to a document variable? So what happens really is that we convert a code to a document variable, and then we can work with it for selection of data. We can work with it in the sense of having calculations on the usage of codes. We can look for code combinations with statistical procedures. This is the idea of converting a code to a document variable. So then there is the question if this function is the transform code to variable, a function that is only available in MAXQDA 2020. So give me a second. Here, it should look better now. Yeah. No, it has been introduced in MAXQDA, I think MAXQDA 2, so it's already there for many years. So then there is the question on the multidimensional scaling. I hope I can, I ran sometimes into problems with copying. I hope it works here. No, it's opening any programs. It's scrambling my whole screen. Oh, we'll see. Give me a second, please. I really hope this will be over here. Oh no, I still can read it. Sometimes Word has a bug, in fact. It's thinking I'm pressing my Shift key, but I don't do it. So I end up with several strange things happening on my computer. And I'm not sure if I'm able to copy it anymore. No, does not work. Maybe like this. Maybe it works like this using the context. No. I'm sorry. Does not work either. You see, I'm not. Ah, here we go. There it works again. Okay. Here we are. Can you also do that multi-dimensional scaling for similarity for document sets, groups, rather than just individual documents? No, this does not work, because then it's even harder to look for the applications there. It's only available for documents. So there is another question. Can you export number of codes by document person in something like Excel? Here we have it. Can you export number of codes by document person in something like Excel or CSV that could then be read by stats software? Yeah, of course we can. There are several options to do so. You can use stats, or there is a very simple way. You can go to Visual Tools. You can open Code Matrix Browser. You can create a documents by code matrix here, and you can even collapse and uncollapse these codes, and MAXQDA will export this matrix as you see it. So for the export, it will also be flipped. The columns will be displayed in the rows, and the rows will be displayed as the columns, so you can directly import it into SPSS, for example. There is also the option that you can only export the variables, so you can export the document variables after transforming them into a document variable, for example, and you can even export it as Excel or directly as an SPSS data file if you need. Okay. Can you explain what the document map is for? We have this question here. Can you explain what the document map is for? Yeah, I try to explain that the idea of the document map is that we can identify groups of documents, that we can create hypotheses, because we need to be a little bit, or we need to hesitate a little bit with our interpretations here, because it's placed on a two-dimensional surface, and sometimes it's very hard to or we have contradictions here that we cannot solve because the differences here, or the distances between documents, are not easy to interpret here sometimes. But if we can, then we can recognize what are the main things that we see here in this data, what happens here. We can create groups of documents, and we can see for example, that there are 24 documents sharing all only jobs lost. And we can also right-click on this whole of the green highlighted persons and say, activate documents in this cluster, or save these documents in this cluster as a document set. So we can use this visual representation of the document map to create groups of data. By the way, there's also a code map which works similar with multidimensional scaling. We can, for example, take all these codes from how affected by crisis, including, let's say, for not affected. And we can analyze the distances between the codes too, not only for documents. For example, we see that jobs lost and family is often coded together, while jobs lost and not affected and lots of the others are very seldomly coded together. But I suppose that not affected and pensions and not affected and insecure is also coded sometimes. So this is some kind of strange. We would need to go into the data, what's going on there, because and the explanation will be that some of the people are saying, oh, we are not so much affected, just a little bit. And that's, for example, for our pensions. Okay, let me see if there is still a question open. Okay, it has been already answered in the chat, but I will answer it here too. Is the Mixed Methods tab only available in MAXQDA Pro? Now the answer is not. The Mixed Methods tab is available in any MAXQDA product, except for the reader, which can only read files, of course. Okay, so let's have a look at the chat if there is something still open. Okay, there are several more questions in the question and A section. Okay. Would you advise? Okay. Again, I have problems with my mouse. Maybe I can type it. Oh no, it works. Here we go. Would you advise the use of mixed methods in a thesis using qualitative content analysis with over 100 semi-structured interviews? Depends on the real research question and depends on your data. Of course, 100 semi-structured interviews give you a lot of data, and nearly all of the functions that I've created. You can also see these you can use it, and with 100 documents, you can use it very well, these mixed methods functions, of course. Okay. Are there any other questions in the question and answer or chat? So, okay. There is, at the moment, there are none. Christine, is asking on how about quantitative alone, and can MAXQDA replace SPSS? So let's start with this first one here. How about quantitative alone? Yeah, I can, for example, start stats, and I can enter data here in stats, or I can work with my document variables here. I can even open an external file, and there is also a complete session on stats, which should be also recorded. And I can do a lot of stuff here. For example, let's have the jobs lost here and the job security scale. And we can create descriptive statistics for it, which makes more sense for job security scale. For example, we can create here a box plot or a histogram. And the other and many more stuffs. For example, we can create here, let's say, an employment status frequency table. We can right-click on these unemployed persons and say, I want to save them as a document set, and so on. So this stats module is only available for MAXQDA Analytics Pro. And then this stats tab will be displayed here. MAXQDA cannot replace SPSS, but because SPSS has much more analysis functions included, but the idea is that you can do a mixed methods project just using only MAXQDA, because the basic functions for descriptive statistics, which are typical for lots of mixed methods projects, are all implemented in MAXQDA. Yeah, I think this was it from my side. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it. So, oh yeah, there is another one. I will copy it here so you all know which I'm working on. Can I use the similarity analysis for the response pattern to identify if responders answers one question? Not the similarity analysis, maybe the document map, but there are other tools, and in fact it's the code matrix browser which I would use for this, and I think this would work very well, because in the code matrix browser you can see how many persons have answered which questions. I will reopen it, and we will see that we can also sort the here the code matrix browser by frequencies. Oh no, I see there. I have again problems with my mouse. I cannot select anything. Yeah, so we have a natural stop of this, I think. Maybe this works. No, this doesn't work too. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't demonstrate it, but I hope it got a little clear here. Okay, have a nice evening, morning, and midday. Happy you joined this session, and all the best for your projects using MAXQDA, using other software like Excel, combining them together for great research. Yeah, have a nice day.